It was the first warm evening of June when Michael stepped out onto his porch with a glass of iced tea. The sky glowed purple as the sun slipped beneath the trees, and that's when he saw them. Tiny pinpricks of golden light blinking in the yard. Fireflies. Dozens of them. They hovered above the grass like sparks from a bonfire, rising and falling with an invisible rhythm. To Michael, it was a reminder of childhood summers when he and his sister would chase fireflies barefoot, cupping them gently in their hands before letting them go. But his smile faded when he noticed Karen Whitmore, the president of the HOA, glaring at him from across the street. She crossed her arms, muttering something into her phone. Michael had lived in the neighborhood long enough to know what that meant. If Karen was calling, it wasn't to compliment the view, it was the beginning of trouble. Asterisk. The next morning, Michael woke to find a crisp white envelope taped to his door. The bold letters at the top read, Homeowners Association Violation Notice. His stomach dropped. The offense? Attracting fireflies. The HOA claimed fireflies were environmental nuisances, warning that residents were not permitted to create conditions encouraging their presence. Michael laughed out loud. How could anyone ban fireflies? They weren't pests. They were symbols of summer itself. But beneath the notice, he read the fine print. Repeat violations could lead to fines and even legal action. Michael shook his head in disbelief. He thought of the blinking lights the night before, soft and magical, and knew one thing for certain. He wasn't going to let Karen, or anyone else, steal that magic from the neighborhood. Asterisk that evening, the HOA meeting was held in the community hall. Michael went, clutching the notice. Rows of folding chairs were filled with weary homeowners, while Karen stood at the front in her trademark pink blazer, tapping her pen against a clipboard. Fireflies, she announced, are messy, distracting, and bring children into the streets after dark. It's unsafe. Murmurs filled the room. Michael stood. They're harmless, he said firmly. They bring joy. You can't legislate summer out of existence. Karen's eyes narrowed. Mr. Rivers, you're out of line. He ignored her and continued. Maybe fireflies aren't the problem. Maybe the problem is forgetting what it means to be human, to enjoy something simple, fleeting, and beautiful. The room went quiet. Some nodded. Some looked down, afraid to oppose the HOA. But Michael knew then that this wasn't just about bugs. It was about magic versus control. Asterisk words spread quickly. By the next evening, children from around the neighborhood had gathered on the lawns with mason jars, capturing fireflies and releasing them again like living lanterns. Their laughter echoed under the stars. Karen stormed down the sidewalk, barking orders. Empty those jars. Go home immediately. But the children only giggled louder. Michael watched from his porch, pride swelling in his chest. One brave girl, Emily, stood in front of Karen and said, You can't stop the fireflies. They belong to everyone. Karen's face turned red, but before she could respond, the fireflies seemed to pulse brighter, clustering together in strange, swirling patterns. The children gasped. Michael narrowed his eyes. He'd never seen fireflies behave like that before. Asterisk. That night, Michael sat outside long after the children had gone to bed. The fireflies didn't disperse. Instead, they hovered, forming glowing streams above the lawn, weaving in patterns that almost looked intentional. Michael rubbed his eyes. Could it be? One firefly landed on his hand, glowing brighter than the rest. For a fleeting second, Michael swore he heard a whisper like wind through leaves. Protect us. His breath caught. Were the fireflies more than insects? He thought of childhood legends, of nature spirits hiding in plain sight. His heart pounded. If the HOA succeeded, they wouldn't just be banning bugs. They'd be extinguishing something far greater. Asterisk. By the weekend, Karen had escalated. Security guards patrolled the neighborhood, armed with bug spray and nets. Signs were hammered into the grass. Nitrogen monoxide fireflies allowed. Michael could hardly believe it. He confronted one guard. You realize you're spraying poison where kids play? The guard shrugged helplessly. Just doing my job. That night, Michael walked the block and found dozens of fireflies lying lifeless in the grass. His chest tightened with anger. He couldn't stand by any longer. He would fight not just for fireflies, but for what they represented. freedom, beauty, and the small magic that made life worth living. Asterisk. The following evening, Michael placed mason jars filled with sugar water and fruit slices around his porch, creating safe havens for the surviving fireflies. As darkness fell, they flocked to him, gathering in greater numbers than before. Suddenly, the lights intensified, glowing so brightly that Michael's entire yard shimmered like a golden sea. The whispers returned, clearer this time. You have chosen us, so we choose you. Michael's breath caught as the fireflies moved together, forming glowing shapes in the air: wings, faces, letters. They were intelligent, and they were asking for help. Asterisk. Soon, Michael wasn't alone. Families began joining him on his lawn, curious about the glowing spectacle. The fireflies seemed to perform for them, dancing in spirals, forming constellations, even spelling out words. Joy, home, magic. The children clapped and squealed. Even skeptical adults found themselves staring with wonder. Karen watched from across the street, trembling with fury. This is outrageous, she shrieked. But this time, the crowd didn't scatter. They stayed, shoulder to shoulder, standing with Michael. Something had shifted. The fireflies weren't pests anymore. They were a miracle. Asterisk. Karen was not one to admit defeat. At the next HOA meeting, she unveiled her master plan. A professional exterminator hired to fumigate the entire neighborhood. Gas masks, trucks, chemicals. Michael slammed his hand on the table. You'll destroy more than fireflies. You'll poison our homes. Karen smirked. Rules are rules. Panic spread among the homeowners. Some feared fines, others feared the chemicals. But Michael knew one thing. The extermination couldn't be allowed to happen. He had one night to rally everyone, or the fireflies and their secret would be lost forever. Asterisk. At midnight, Michael knocked on doors, urging neighbors to gather at his yard. Families came, carrying flashlights and jars. The fireflies seemed to sense the urgency, clustering in unprecedented numbers. They swirled overhead, painting the night sky with golden rivers of light. Emily, the brave little girl, whispered, "They're trying to protect us too." Michael believed her. He turned to the crowd. "If we don't fight now, they'll take everything. Not just the fireflies, but our right to live with beauty, with magic." The crowd erupted in cheers. For the first time, the neighborhood stood united. Asterisk. At dawn, the rumble of trucks echoed down the street. The exterminators had come. Karen marched proudly beside them, clipboard in hand. But when they reached Michael's lawn, they stopped in their tracks. Hundreds of neighbors stood arm in arm, blocking the yard. Above them, the fireflies formed a glowing shield, hovering so close together they looked like a living wall of light. The exterminator muttered, "I've never seen anything like this." Karen screeched, "Do your job." But the man hesitated, visibly shaken by the sight. The fireflies pulsed brighter, almost daring him to try. Asterisk. Suddenly, the fireflies burst upward in a magnificent explosion of light, scattering like fireworks. Gasps filled the crowd as glowing trails rained down, touching each person gently. Wherever the light landed, people felt warmth, joy, and a strange sense of clarity. Michael saw tears on the faces of his neighbors. Emily's father whispered, "It feels like hope." Karen screamed, trying to wave the fireflies away, but none touched her. Instead, they circled around her, glowing brighter and brighter until she stumbled back, covering her eyes. For the first time, Karen looked afraid. Asterisk. The exterminators packed up their trucks, refusing to proceed. "We're not messing with whatever this is," their leader said. Karen shrieked at them, but no one listened. Michael stepped forward. "You see? They're not nuisances. They're gifts. We just had to notice." The neighbors erupted in applause. For once, Karen's voice was drowned out. She stormed home, slamming her door so hard the windows rattled. The neighborhood had chosen its side, and it wasn't hers. Asterisk. In the weeks that followed, the fireflies remained, brighter and more numerous than ever. Families gathered nightly on their lawns, watching the displays. Children told stories about the guardian lights, while adults found themselves lingering outside, rediscovering wonder in the simplest things. Michael often sat quietly, watching them dance, feeling a profound peace he hadn't known in years. The HOA never mentioned Fireflies again. Karen still glared from her porch, but she no longer held power. Something bigger than rules had taken root. Magic, unity, and joy. Asterisk by summer's end. The neighborhood had changed. People greeted each other with warmth. Children played freely. Even the air seemed lighter. Michael knew the Fireflies wouldn't stay forever. They never did. But that was their lesson. Beauty is fleeting, which is why it must be cherished. On the last warm night of August, the Fireflies gathered in one final, breathtaking display. They spelled a single glowing word across the sky. Remember. As they drifted into the darkness, Michael whispered, "We will." And deep down, he knew. The neighborhood would never forget the summer the Fireflies turned ordinary lives into something extraordinary.